Hello, welcome back to Reasonably Prepared. Today we're going to talk about lessons learned from the Texas tundra storm. Let's get into it. Okay, first things first, I just want to say thank you for everyone who supports the channel and all of the engagement that I get through the comments. It sure means a lot to me. If you like what I do, you can continue to support the channel by hitting that like button. Hit subscribe if you're new to the channel. Hit the little bell icon, the little bell notification, so that you get notified every time I come out with a new video. So once again, I just wanted to say thank you. Okay, so what is it I'd like to discuss today? Well, for those of you not in the know, which I can't imagine is very many people, Texas is experiencing what people are calling unprecedented winter storms. Okay, and so I just want to start this video by saying here at Reasonably Prepared, I, Joshua, am very, very saddened and super sorry for anybody who's experienced any loss or tragedy. I don't want to make light of actual loss to if you've actually lost a loved one during this time. I want to say that I'm sorry and reach out to you and say this is not a video that of a I told you so, and I'm not trying to demonize anybody, and we are truly saddened and truly grieved for the loss that's happened in this time. And I do truly wish that and hope that you have help and you have support for this, because I do know during this time many people have suffered a family loss, loss of life, loss of property, and loss of things. So reach out to your community, reach out to local churches. Hopefully local churches, you're on the ball and you're helping people. It would be my heart. If you need some help, reach out to me through email. You can email reasonablyprepared@gmail.com. I will do my best to try and point you in a direction of people who might be able to help you out in your area here in Texas. So once again, this is not an I told you so video, but I would be remiss on the coming out of this craziness, this winter craziness, to not try and help and bring some information on lessons learned from what has happened. Okay, and as an emergency preparedness or a prepper type channel, I feel it's my responsibility to serve and love all who watch this by giving my perspective and information on how we can better prepare ourselves for future events. Let's learn from this so that we can all be better neighbors in our community and better be able to help and serve other people who are in need. Because one of our big philosophies, if you go back and listen to our podcast on our Philosophies one, I'll put it in the link in the description below, is we prepare ourselves. We better prepare ourselves so that we can be a light in darkness and bring order from chaos and help other people when they need help. And we're not part of a problem, but we can be part of a solution. So in a lot of ways, the last, say, 16 months, basically through 2020 and now to 2021, we're halfway through February. We've got an ice storm. We've got COVID. We've got political uprisings. We've got, violence. We've got all kinds of things that we have been dealing with. And in some ways, this has actually legitimized preppers or people who consider themselves preppers. And many, many, many people now are coming to the conversation of, even right now in this moment, I've had lots of people reach out to me personally, which is another reason why I'm making this video, of we want to be better prepared. So in your research, I'm hoping that I can bring good and valuable information to you. And so one of the things I've been telling people who are realizing, waking up to the fact that they are ill-prepared for sometimes general life as it comes at them, because they become so comfortable, which is okay, that happens, but they become so comfortable in their general suburban, urban type lifestyle that when a monkey wrench gets thrown into that, it kind of throws them into chaos. So they're realizing, maybe there is something to being prepared to some degree. And I'm not necessarily discussing, like I said, digging out a bunker or, going to extreme scenarios. There's nothing wrong with those things. And I really like the perspective of some really what I call extreme preppers. But for those people just starting out and just realizing, holy moly, I'm not prepared. Hopefully this is valuable. The point is, I tell people you can't prepare for everything. Don't try to prepare for everything, but you can be prepared for anything. And what I mean by that is preparing for very specific scenarios, right, can be limiting. But if you do a general, what I call reasonably general preparedness, and you make sure some basic bases are covered, then really anything to come along, you can be prepared for. The point is to not live in fear at all, but to take some of these extremes that we've been going through, political, weather, and learn from them. And instead of, and let's hope that they're not in vain, that we don't go through the trial in vain, and that we can learn from them and start utilizing that information to better prepare ourselves. So really one of the points is, when I say you can't prepare for everything, but you can prepare for anything. What I'd like to do is get myself and us to a place where we enjoy modern amenities, okay, that we enjoy all that we have, but that we're not so utterly dependent on them that we can't live without them. Okay, so simply put, enjoy what we've got, but utilize the abundance and the amenities that we have in Western culture. And I don't know where you're watching from around the world, but just keep in mind, let's use the system we have now, take advantage of it, enjoy it, but also get ourselves to a place that we're not so dependent on it that we can't live without it. And that brings me to lessons learned, and I want to give you practical and actionable information regarding this cold weather, because I believe that it applies to many other things. If a tornado, hurricane, fire, any other natural disaster, it literally, we can take this and apply the principles to other emergencies. So here's what I've recognized. That number one, what has happened in Texas is extreme, super extreme for Texas. It might not be for other areas of the country who are used to living in cold environments and getting ice and snow, but for Texas, it really has disrupted the normalcy of life. And what, in my perspective, what I've seen so far is number one, okay, a lot of people are talking about power, and we'll get to that, and energy and electricity, and we'll get to that. But what I've seen is one of the biggest sources of emergencies are, number one, water. I talk a lot about water, okay? It's one of the things people were rushing to the grocery store to get first, was literally just to have water. And it's estimated through, on the Washington Post, the Associated Press, that nearly 14 million Texans experience some form of water disruption, whether that be frozen bursted pipes, whether that be contaminated water supply. And from what I gathered and have been reading for the last couple of days, the majority of cities are on boil your water mandates. Okay, so water, right? Like even before the electricity plummeted and went down, and before the grid started going down, and before any of that, people were panicking to get water. Okay, and food for sure, but specifically water. I had a really close friend who lives in Houston, in a major metropolitan area. And he grew up in the city. He grew up, a suburb city, normal city guy. And a couple of years ago, I turned him on to preparedness lifestyle. And he was calling me a few days before things really got gnarly. And he was like kind of chuckling. He's like, I was at the grocery store and people were panic buying water and the stores were running out of it. I know up in San Angelo area in central and west Texas, HEB, which is an awesome grocery store, by the way, was just stocking pallets of water and allowing people to just take as much as they can, because in Abilene, they were on a mandatory boil your water. And it's my understanding, I was trying to look it up, as several of my friends were telling me that right before the freeze hit, they actually had contaminated water. Their water went fully contaminated, and they were on you're not allowed to use your water. You're not allowed to drink the water because it had some sort of chemicals in it that you can't drink. And I couldn't find anything specific to that, but it went all the way down to, San Angelo, and it's wrapped around many different areas, are just completely without water. Busted water mains, water for the city, for municipalities, locally within each house. My father-in-law, his pipes burst. They didn't have any water. I know my mother and father are way down in south central West Texas kind of a thing. They put big giant buckets outside, big buckets, to fill with snow and ice, and they've been melting that to use the water for washing their hands and cleaning and flushing the toilets and things of that nature. Because my parents do have stored supplies, they have plenty of drinking water, but they didn't want to use the drinking water for cleaning. So that brings me to this dramatic point here is, water is one of those really a lot easier. It's like the simplest thing that you can get up front, one of the cheapest, okay? And the easiest way to do that is right up front is just have water stored up. And one of the great things is you can put it under your bed, you can put it in the back of a closet, you can, if you're in a smaller area, if you got a larger home or garage, you can put it on the shelves. And really simply put, just buy gallons of water. Gallons of drinking water. My recommendation is 2 gallons per person per day. One of those gallons is specifically for drinking. Now, I'm not saying you're going to drink all of that 1 gallon in a day, okay? But what that does is it give you a buffer zone for, if it's hot outside and you do have to consume a lot, if you consume a little less, but you've got, other people that you're going to help, it gives you somewhat of a buffer zone. So 2 gallons per person per day, one for drinking, one for, cooking food and things of that nature. And I would do that for out to 7 days. Lots of people were asking me for water, and they were just simply without any clean drinking water. So here are some things that you can do to purify water. Number one, boil it. Okay, boiling water at 212 degrees for a minimum of 60 seconds is going to kill, bacteria. It's not going to get rid of chemical contaminants, but it will make it clean as far as drinking is concerned, okay? And another thing you can do is to buy external sources of water purification. I recommend 2 different things, and they're going to be links in the description below on where to buy these. And just to let you know that, yes, everything that I talk about will be linked in the description below. These are affiliate links. You do help the channel out, but even if you don't buy them through me, I just want you to go research them and have them anyway. But you do support the channel. I just want to be transparent. When you click on an affiliate link here, we do get a commission on it. It helps the channel out a lot. But one of the things is something called a Berkey system. The big Berkey, there's several different Berkey systems. I'm going to try and put a picture of it here. But these things are really incredible. They will filter like colored food dye out of it. Any bacteria, they will literally turn swamp water into clean drinking water. Now, they're a little on the pricey side for some people, but when you consider, I know lots of people who take them camping. Instead of bringing water in, they just scoop up lake water, and then they've got clean drinking water, and it pay for itself over a period of time. But these Berkey systems are extraordinary, and once again, they will literally turn the dirtiest of swamp water into clean drinking water. Okay. Now, the next thing would be a more affordable, easier way to go would be the Sawyer systems, and Sawyer started about, I think, $20 and worked their way to $100 or $200, and they ship these things to third world countries who are in need during catastrophes. And they're just, some go on a water bottle, some have a pouch that you just fill up and you drink through a straw. And these are another really great water purification system in an emergency that you can put in a backpack, that you can put. The store is really easy. They're very inexpensive, and they will be in the description below. I recommend these. I have used them many times. I do like them. The only other thing you gotta, sometimes the water tastes bad, but it's still clean. Okay, so the Sawyers, or another company is Life Straw. These are great. There's also like chemical treatments that you can do, like little tablets. But I don't use this as much because I don't like putting chemicals into my water. It's just a personal preference, but they do exist. Aqua Tabs, I think, is one of them. And then even below that, the cheapest, easiest way, which is going to get rid of most bacteria, but you have to do some research. I've been trying to do research on it, but I've got conflicting things about bleach not removing Giardia. But you can boil it. But if you boil it and then put a little bit of bleach in the water, you can go online, go on Google. I'll put a picture right here of the recipe for general recipe of how much bleach to put in water. You want to steer clear of any of the scented bleaches and like just regular good old household bleach. Chlorinated bleach is what I would use. So anytime large storms come through and hailstorms come through, one of the first things to go is water. So water to me is simply the most important. Water, and then food. Food's a little easier. Keep dehydrated foods on hand, keep boxed foods on hand, keep canned foods on hand. You want to make sure there's proteins and good complex carbohydrates in there. Keep it in a container and cycle it through every 6 months or 1 year. Like, put yourself on a schedule. Do not forget about the food. And if you're putting enough food in there, and you're keeping your freezers fully stocked, and so food is kind of easier. You know what you eat, you know what your family likes, but keep some canned food, keep some boxed foods, non-perishable foods on hand. Cycle through them every 6 months to 1 year. Pull them out, use them, restock it, because you don't want to eat them past their expiration dates or things of that nature. And if you have that just simply ready to go and stored, then in an emergency, when the food is off the shelf. Excuse me, is off the shelves. I went to the grocery store just to pick up something very specific, and they had it. What I was looking for, a couple of little things, but there was no bread. Okay, there was no milk at all in any capacity. There were no lunch meats. Completely gone, completely cleared out. All of the meats and proteins completely cleared out. It happens like this. And what a lot of people don't know is grocery stores, gas stations, they run on what's called a just-in-time supply chain. So you notice every 1, 2, or 3 days, that's when they get shipments in. They have computer programs and different things that kind of keep the ebb and flow of what it is they're using now, what it is not. But really, they don't have any more than about 3 days worth of regular shopping power on the shelves at any given time, or in the store. And that means if we all rush there, it's all gone. So just like Dave Ramsey or Susan Orman or any of these financial gurus, they'll talk to you about having an emergency fund of cash, to start with $100 or $500. I think it would be wise. I think that it is wise and prudent to have an emergency fund of water and food right up front. Okay, and this puts us in a position where we're not in panic or in an emergency mode. That when an emergency happens, we're not in panic mode. We don't have to be part of a problem. We can be part of a solution. So water and food are some of the biggest. The next one down is going to be electricity, power, gas, energy consumption. Okay, power and energy, the energy, so whether it be natural gas, electricity, really our problem this time was heat. In extreme hot, it would be keeping cool, but this time it was heat. And some very dangerous things have happened. And I'm saddened to say that some people have died and passed away because they didn't have some small amount of education on what happens when you burn. Anything that creates fire is combustible indoors. It off gases. And one of its primary off gas is CO2. And bringing a charcoal grill or a grill into your home is not the same thing as burning in a fireplace, because that fireplace is a chimney where things off gas. And I'm not trying to speak down to anybody, but I've read about a story, actually 2 stories of this happening, okay? And it's super sad. And so just on a very basic level, do not burn combustibles, paper, wood, charcoal, things like that, indoors without it being good ventilation. Don't ever do that. It also becomes a fire danger. A fire hazard, you could burn your house down if you do that. Another thing that I saw was some people were getting in their vehicles and turning their vehicles on to stay cold, or to stay warm, and some people passed away because they had their garage door closed. Your vehicle's off-gassing toxins and carbon monoxide, and it will kill you, okay? So what are alternatives to this, okay? So what you're going to want to do is, very simply, here's number 1. Have some blankets. So one of the reasons why I know that the energy consumption was so difficult, number 1, is because so many people were without power. Some 14 million people were without power. Right now, on the tail end of this, several 100,000 people are still without power. Because my wife and I and our family are prepared, we had people calling us, okay? Hey, I need some advice, I need some help. Some of the people were in such dire straits that we simply decided to invite them into our home, okay? And I'll go on to that one too here in a little bit. But one of the things that we talked about with them was they couldn't keep warm, okay? So, and one of the ways they didn't have extra blankets. They had just the blankets they use on a daily basis to sleep in, right? And it wasn't enough. So one of the things we've done is we'll go to yard sales and flea markets or garage sales and things of that nature. And anytime we see something that looks like a reasonably okay quality blanket or sleeping bag, we buy it. And then we wash it, and then we've got it. We've got some really ugly blankets. I ain't gonna lie. They are ugly. But they're big and heavy and warm, okay? And we were able to help them and other people by supplying blankets is one. Number 2 ways you can, keep yourself warm, we'll just say warm, that's what we're talking about now, in a power outage, is to, instead of burning something combustible that off gases, is to buy, they make heaters, okay, actual heaters that run on propane that are rated to burn indoors. And I can personally vouch for these. One of them is called the Mr. Heater, the Buddy series, or Mr. Heater. Here's a picture of that right here, okay? And there'll be a link in the description below. But these things are really, really cool because, number 1, they're rated to burn indoors. Number 2, they burn propane. Now, another part of that is you're going to have to keep propane on hand. But they will burn those little green camping canisters between 5 and 8 hours, the one that I have, which is the Buddy series for Mr. Heater, or you can get a hose that's an adapter that puts them so connect it to your propane tank that goes to your grill. Okay, so your propane grill that you have that serves more than one purpose, that propane, and you can actually heat something with it. And this one we have just one. It'll heat like 250 square feet or something of that nature, which is at least a bedroom or two, with propane indoors. And it has something on it called it's something called an ODS, or oxygen depletion sensor. Okay, and that means that if it senses oxygen's going away, it just shuts off, so it doesn't hurt you. Okay, and if it tips over, it'll turn itself off. And if someone bumps it or kicks it or moves it, it turns itself off, so it won't burn your house down. These things are very safe. They start, I don't know, like $100 or even less than $100, and they work their way up to several. But we have used the heck out of these. We use them in our campers when we go camping, and we use them in our home when we don't have power and we need to heat, and they will keep things very, very warm. And when you include body heat, it really helps a lot. And so if you've got the margin for it, buy one for a couple of rooms, and turn it on when it's extreme and use those. Yeah, for those of you who do have fireplaces, get them maintenance and cleaned out regularly, and make sure you've got ample amounts of good burning wood. If I'm assuming that if you have a fireplace, you already somewhat use it, but there's no harm in keeping some extra wood somewhere that you only have in case you need it and your power's out, instead of burning through it. So just, keep that stored up, just a little extra. That's all we're really talking about here. You want to keep your freezers full and closed in the event of electrical outages, okay? Because every time you open it, you lose a little bit more efficiency, okay? So keep those fridges closed as much as possible. And just make sure you don't open and close and open, because you're going to lose the efficiency there. All right, and so here's another thing that you can actually do is to go buy a generator. Generators, even if you just get like a small one, I don't know how you feel. They even sell them for a couple $100 at Harbor Freight. But if you get a generator, keep in mind you're having to keep fuel. Fuel is hard to get right now. So what my family does, what we do, just is we keep about 10 to 15 gallons in a container on shelves out in the shed, extra, that all it's for is being stored. You can put something called Stay-Bil in it. It stabilizes it. But I'd say about every 6 months, I cycle through where I'll put it in my truck or put it in my car, burn it, go to the gas station and refill them and top them off, just so we've got gasoline stored. That way, like right now, almost all of the gas stations in our town are shut down and out of gas. There's zero gas. The gas supply chain completely disrupted. I actually work in the oil field, okay? And we have all but shut down production. So there's going to be a disruption, just like in the water supply, just like in food supply, just like in delivery. Gasoline is going to be disrupted. So just keep in mind, if you've got a generator, you're going to have to store fuel for it. Don't depend on rushing out when everyone else is panicking to try and get it. Be wise, get an extra container of it, that way you've got it. But generators are something good to run local appliances, okay? You'll want to put the generator outside, please don't run it inside, but you can always run some extension cords to a refrigerator or a freezer or a couple of lights or an electrical heater to help supplement electrical when it goes down. So I know people are out there buying generators right now. You can get small ones, big ones. Honda makes a great one. Harbor Freight makes some good ones that are supposed to compete with. And I'll put some Amazon links to ones that I know are good that my family uses, okay? So generators are also very good to have. So blankets, generators, propane heaters. What's great about having propane stuff is your propane grill you can use to cook with, okay? You can also do that if your stove is out. So you've got an electric stove, you can cook on your propane grill. So these are all just simple tips and ideas, so that aren't like the extreme, make sure you're in a bunker, but the everyday things that we each have. Then the third thing would just be a camp stove. You can use basic Coleman camp stove. We have, other friends have, when there's no electricity. There are only 2 burners, but hey, it still takes those little propane canisters. The same hose that works on the Mr. Heater Buddy Heater thing also works on the stove. So you can use those camp stoves to cook food, make sure you're well ventilated, and that's another thing to have. And then, hey, 2 birds, 1 stone. You've got a camping stove for camping, and I'm going to do a whole video on the importance of learning how to go camping here in just a little bit, but right now I'm focusing on this, okay? And then that brings me down to the final thing, which is going to be your household and your community, okay? As I mentioned before, there were a few families that were in such dire straits that we decided to take them into our home. And I'm not saying I'm better than anybody else or anything. Please don't hear that I'm bragging, but the simple fact of the matter is they were in such need. We wanted to be a good community and great neighbors and compassionate. And one of the families had a pregnant mom with 3 daughters, and the husband got stuck hours away at work and wasn't able to get home. So we went and made sure they came to our house. They had no electricity. They didn't have a lot of food up. And so they peppered me with questions for the last several days on how can we become better? How can we be prepared? Because I did let them know, and if you're a prepper out there, if you're a prepper, may I encourage you to not become an elitist. Make sure you're finding ways to help people in need if you're taken care of. Don't just sit back and be like, ha ha ha, I got water and food, I'm good. Sucks to be you. I don't want us to be that way as a community, and certainly not in the reasonably prepared community. Because when things are at their worst, what helps the best is when we're being loving and compassionate within the margin that we have. I'm not saying, just make your house a hippie commune or anything of that nature, but let's find ways that we can be generous and help in our community. One of the ways we did was 2 families that came in and stayed with us. We had 9 children in our house, okay? And so what we had to do was figure out ways. We all homeschool, so we just did school together kind of communally in that way. Kids played a lot of board games. Because I do hunt and harvest my own food, we had plenty of proteins and things stored up that we were able to give them food. They even brought food from their house that they didn't want to perish. We had plenty of water stored up. We had a water filtration system in our home that we were able to utilize to give them. And some of our friends were without power for 4 days. That's 1, 2, 3, 4 full days. That's extraordinary. Okay, their house got down to, I want to say something like 40 degrees. So we said, just guys, come on over. Please just come. And we just had a simple, fun time. Now they've since left. Their electricity's come back on and they were able to leave. And because they've peppered us with questions, the encouragement I gave to them was, hey, we love serving you, and we love that we're able to, and we love that we have the margin for this, and we hope that you're blessed. But instead of always depending on us, why not take this as a learning opportunity to better prepare yourself so that you don't have to be in panic mode when an emergency happens in the future. And they're taking that so much to heart, which is what's prompted this video here. And so I'm hoping this helps them and this helps you. It's super duper generous to help people out, and they remember it and they like it and they love it, and it makes your community, your general area, all that stronger for it. So hopefully you have found this valuable, and hopefully this has helped. Please be blessed. Be awesome. Once again, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all of the formalities of YouTube. You know what? I might as well just say this. We are rolling out Patreon for anybody out there who would like to support us so we can continue making content that helps so that we have the margin and the finances to be able to do the reviews we want to do and give the content we want to give and pour into you as much as I'm able to. I have launching Patreon. Go check us out on Patreon at Reasonably Prepared. I'll put a link in the description below, and any way you want to help support the channel, you can do that through Patreon for as little as $3 a month. Helps us tremendously, but more specifically, it gives us the margins to be able to do more for other people. Okay, so go check us out on Patreon, leave comments below, like and subscribe, do all of that. Hope you found this video helpful and useful, and remember, just because you're prepared does not mean you're paranoid. Get out there. Be blessed. Thanks. Bye.